This series has been given a backdrop, just the backdrop that happens to be there, no thought behind it, really, other than when I arrange the room like this. Three things that are significant: Tufty over there, the Dan Nolan, or four things: Dan Nolan, the Spitfire, the little Spitfire you can see in front of Dan Nolan, and over here, Mick Ronson, who has been the backdrop throughout. And I imagine maybe some of you haven't even heard of Mick Ronson. He was a childhood hero for me. And I come to the play that I did. It was actually my last offering for OYT. I didn't know it was going to be my last offering, although I had a good idea. I'll speak about that more when I talk about the end of OYT and the beginning of RSC OYT. I'm going to start at the end with the review that we got for this play in the local newspaper. It's a lovely one, and it kind of covers everything that I want to say. A small story with universal themes of love, secret, and the truths we tell. It followed two strands of a love story 40 years apart, teenage love and some repercussions decades later. Director Mark Wheeler boldly stayed the action in a naturalistic and low-key way in an intimate space where the action unfolded in the midst of an audience sat at cafe tables. I think it's probably the most imaginative yet simple way of staging a play that I've ever done with any of my plays. I'm so proud of that. And we wanted to do it in a cafe, and sadly, the cafe we'd planned to do it in closed forever, just before we were about to do it. So sad that we weren't able to do that. There was a plan up in Hull to do it, where Mick lived, and that never happened, sadly. I don't know why, I was never told. This had the effect of making the action more intense and moving. It definitely was very intense to be sat in this cafe atmosphere. At 50 minutes, this was a lean and pleasingly economic play that did not waste a word. The young cast were excellent, making light work of carrying the emotional weight of some of the scenes. Eve Ibbott was impressive in the dual roles of Lisa and young Susie. Impressive, and that was by Karen Robson. Thank you, Southern Evening Echo. Throughout our time at OYT, you were so supportive in giving us reviews, and it was so appreciated and helped me to get my career off and running as a playwright in no small way. So thank you, Southern Evening Echo. This play I couldn't do on my own, and it's a play that took me ages to write. So I started back when I was doing before Driven to Distraction, and you might remember, if you've seen that episode, me talking about becoming interested in structure through a playwriting course that I was doing with the great John Burgess. And on that playwriting course I met up again with Matt Beams, who was me in the Graham production that was done in the year 2000 at the Edinburgh Festival with Tim Ford. And I approached Matt, there he is, who was also a playwright and had done a number of plays at the point, and said to him, I really need help. I'm struggling with this. I've got the most of it done, but I just cannot sort the ending. And I'd tried with a couple of people before, and it just hadn't worked out. Matt instantly solved the problem, and within a month or so, we were running and we could do the play. It's one I'm so pleased with. If you don't know who Mick Ronson is, you might know this fella. David Bowie, Mick was the guitarist from the Spiders from Mars, which was David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust era lead guitarist and band leader and arranger. He did all the arrangements for the songs in the records. He did the orchestral arrangement for Life on Mars. He was, in my view, the world's greatest guitarist. And this isn't a tribute play about him, it's a tribute play to him, using things that I experienced in my teenage years, things that I heard about Mick, how lovely and kind he was. To me, he was this distant, iconic figure. But apparently, he was just a local lad from Hull, like anybody, and returned letters when fans sent him letters. And on one occasion, which I use in the play, he actually called someone up. So just a lovely, lovely guy, and I'm so pleased to have been able to to do the play about him. The play is set in 2 different time periods. I'm reading this so that I get it right. The 1970s, where teenage Mick Ronson fans boyfriend Ian and girlfriend Susie become immersed in an unplanned teenage pregnancy. Another little theme of mine. I did this in Channel of Love. And I wanted to get this thing. I can remember as a teenager being quite frightened of the idea of teenage pregnancy and how my parents would have reacted. It would have been an absolute nightmare. Susie is instructed by her father to tell Ian she is having an abortion and she's moving. That, it seems, is the end of the situation for Ian. Every other scene is set in 2016, 2017. Ian's brother is the executor of Ian's will. Meanwhile, he's died. A large amount of money has been left to Susie, now Susan. He traces her and discovers that the story Susie told Ian was not true, explaining the large inheritance he bequeathed. There are ripples in all sorts of directions, as you can imagine. It's a very, very different play to any of my others. And I'll just show you some images from it. That's George and Eve. It was lovely to have these older people in OYT to take on these roles. Both of them went on with me to form RSC OYT. This was the last production for Tasha and James, who played Tim and Fiona in I Love You Mum. And having a small cast play was just such a fantastic opportunity to really develop these young actors to do naturalistic roles. And here you can see, this is in rehearsal, but this is one of the cafe tables just set up in our school with a tablecloth and cups literally from the school dining hall. But we had all these all around and the audience sat in them, and one table was reserved for the 2 actors. And action happened at different tables, sometimes sitting on the table with the audience right there in front of you. It was a truly immersive experience. There's a better picture of James and Natasha looking at the album that you can see there, Slaughter on 10th Avenue, one of my favourite albums of all time. And there's me in the rehearsal looking on, sitting as though I'm one of the audience. So we had the play for This Is For You, and there it is, and you can carefully see in Chris Webb, if I can get the light right, can you just see Mick Ronson's head in the cup of coffee? So lovely design there. We did the other play, Can You Hear Me Major Tom? I'll talk about that in the next episode. But this was effectively the poster for This Is For You. We had great reviews, and I love it so much that I've put the whole production up for free on YouTube, and you can see the way in which this integrated cafe works. And in the menu, you'll find a link to see the production. It really is worth watching. I'm just going to say a couple of the other reviews. So this is from the David Bowie Glamour fanzine. We had lots of fans coming to see it. This is the niece of one of the fans, so she didn't know much about Mick Ronson. With little knowledge of Mick Ronson, I was anxious as to what the piece may offer me, but the moment I sat at my table amongst the cast, mingling through the space, I was hooked. The scenes are played out with cast members sitting on chairs, perched on tables and laying on the bed beside me, making me feel like I was eavesdropping on someone's real-life dilemmas. And then once I put it on YouTube, it really took off again. And also, it's been released as a play. So it comes in a dual book with Can You Hear Me Major Tom, with the cover designed by very famous artist Helen Green. That's the play. You've got it all in there. And it's available from, at the moment, Wheellerplays Story, but I believe it's going to be available from somewhere else later on in the year. You can get it from Amazon and so on. So This Is For You, the play. And this is the review just a teacher sent to me after she'd seen it on YouTube. So this is Nicola Smith. Just sat and watched the whole play. I really enjoyed the storyline and how the audience were right in the middle of the action. I think my students would enjoy the challenge of performing this, and it will enable them to expand their range and experience. I particularly like the duologues and use of flashbacks. Thank you for sharing. I will be purchasing this soon. And Nicola, I hope you do. This is for you. It's one of my quiet little plays that I really want to see people doing. It's very new, so it hasn't had the opportunity to get out. And when I said I wrote one of my plays in a month fairly recently, this one took years. And it's a real kind of labour of love. And there he is on my shirt, the great Mick Ronson.